Hey everybody, this is Perch. And all right, this is gonna be a different video because I'm recording something that unless I forget, and it's quite possible. I mean, I give it 50-50 odds. I will delete this before actually posting it up. But what happens is I record these videos in the car and it goes into this queue of files, and the files get synced with the laptop at home, and then I throw some art in there and out it goes. It is easily the laziest channel there possibly can be. So if you're listening to this, you're clearly at this point, it's 2024. You're listening to this because you, for some crazy ass reason, just enjoy the sound of my voice. I become like your morning radio show for 10 minutes every day. That's what we got. And that's what this show has become, and that's okay. So, but chances are I'm deleting this thing if I remember, but I often don't because I record this thing, I hit stop, I go off to do the next thing. For those of you who don't know me, and a few of you do, but most of you don't, my life is pretty nonstop. I have taken to heart the idea of go, go, go. So I will fire up, different things, and people who every now and then engage with me is like, they go through this process and it depends on how long that process goes of, hey, you can do a lot of things. You should help me to, oh my God, why are you doing 12 things? That's just how I've been. Live fast, die young. Is that it? Except at this point, I should have died because I'm not young anymore. But anyway, I have not hit that 50 mark yet. So I'm very thankful for that. That's gonna be a dark day in this channel's history. But anyway, this is gonna be kind of a freewheeling, kind of crazy ass video. So we'll go there. And before I get into too much, I'm gonna go sappy for a moment. And let's say 2023 sucked as a year. I lost somebody very close to me. I did a lot of good things, and there was a lot of good money made and good business that happened. But it was sad, and not to be a downer about this, but 2023 was a year where I think it sunk home to me that, there's money is nice, but there are things you lose along the course of your life. And I think everybody goes through this. It's called a midlife crisis, I think, for a lot of people. But it was really the moment where you realize that there's a lot of things that aren't coming back. And so that was 2023. So a lot of you were very kind. Many of you sent email messages and text messages and other things to me in and outside the industry to say, hey, we got your back, brother. And when I say we got your back, it doesn't mean like, hey, we're going to financially support you or we're going to buy something of yours or anything else. It just means like, hey, I'm thinking of you and I hope you're doing okay. And for all those of you who did that through email and text, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And probably the person who should thank you even more is my wife, who puts up with all this shit and absolutely, appreciates that it's not her alone pulling the chain for this crazy person here. 2023 was also the year where I got to learn a lot about people, and a lot of this stuff was stuff we knew, but it really came into focus. Like, for example, a lot of people in comics, and I'm sorry for all the creators who are listening to this, editors, people who are inside the business, and hopefully this isn't you, but maybe it is. For a lot of you, you're fucking around. This isn't serious business. Now, I want to describe serious business for a moment. Serious business is where you're sitting there and you run a P&L and you've looked at your forecast and you understand that the actions you take over the next year can equate to, depending on where you're 10 million, 100 million, $1 billion worth of business. And so you take, like, that's a sobering moment, and you start to take real steps and actions to create the best possible business you can, because, one, you take pride in having a big business, but two, you probably financially gain from this success. And the problem with comics, as many of you have talked about with me on the phone or other places, the problem that we have is that if you're a creator in this space, oftentimes the benefit to your hard work means nothing. What I mean by that is if you work that 60, 70-hour week, it doesn't really matter. You can work a 20-hour week, you can work an 80-hour week. By the way, I had this conversation with somebody, And for those of you who know, and some of you who are listening, a few of you, I've talked to on the phone, and right now you may be surprised because I haven't relayed these stories to you, and that's because I'm not a gossip, but I want to express these they're instructive and helpful. So I had an editor, a junior editor at one of the big two, call me crying. And the reason they were crying is because they didn't know what to do with their life, their career. They'd gotten a degree, they'd gotten into comics, the dollar is low. And one of the things you discover in kind of your, if you're moving up in your career, there's this thing that happens in your late 20s, early 30s, where I'm sure there's a good term for this. I'm going to describe this in a dumbass way. There's a moment where you realize, are you on the fast track or the slow track? And the fast track is you start to notice that a lot of your friends, people you came up with in college and other things, they're stuck. They're making about the same amount of money. Their career seems trapped. They're not really going anywhere. And they're frustrated. And you look at your finances and you realize that you have doubled your household income in the last 5 to 6 years. And by the way, whichever side of the equation you're on, there's no judgment, no doubt. It's no matter how good you are as a person, you can find yourself on either side of this. But if you work in comics and you're a paid full-time employee, an FTE, chances are, depending on the friends and the mentors and other people you have, you are on the wrong end of that spectrum, meaning you're watching a lot of your friends, make that 6-figure check, and then they're crossing over to the 250 mark. And there's this thing that goes on. I don't know a lot of people, ever describe it this way, but it basically goes like this. When you're looking at your career, and assuming you come out of college, whatever it happens to be, you get out of college, you take generally a low-paying job, but one with upside potential. And then you mark in your financials the ability to get from, whatever it happens to be when you come out of college to, the climb to 100,000. And when you get in 6 digits, that's a big moment. And then the 6 digits to 250, $250 million. And then, you have the $500 million, which is usually comprised of salary and bonus and other things. And then you cross sorry, not $500 million, $500,000. What am I talking about? I made it stupid. Sorry. The $500,000. And then there's the year when you cross $1 million. And these are all like milestones in your life. And the funny thing is, when you cross the 100,000, you generally have line of sight to $250,000, and then $500,000, and then $1 million. And if you're struggling to get to the 6 digits, that generally means you're never going to get to the $250,000. So there's a whole process there. But the thing that I always notice and that frustrates me about comics, and you've heard me talk about this on videos in the past, is that comics, think about its reach and impact. And I mean, really, for a lot of you, many of you will say that, like, this guy is, stupid and drunk. I'm not drunk, maybe stupid. But the reality is, comic books and the stories are memories. And it's important that we remember that in our minds. We have to remember that. The story that you're writing, the story that you're drawing, the story that you're producing, the story that you're editing, whatever it happens to be, you are making something that's going to live in someone's head for the rest of their life. Now, in a very gross, and I've met plenty of people in the creative industry and in comics that don't like to think of it this way, but artists don't like to put a financial value behind that. But I'm going to ask all of you to do that right now. What is it worth? What is a memory worth for the rest of your life? And let me put it in perspective for you. Let's say you have a family, wife, children, whatever it happens to be, or maybe it's just you, or maybe it's just you and your wife, whatever it is, or maybe you're hoping to have a wife one day. And I want you to think for a moment, how much is it worth to you to get the perfect vacation? Okay? What I mean by this is you work hard, you work your 40, 60, 80 hours a week shift, whatever it happens to be, It sucks. Your boss is stupid, all that kind of stuff. And you are going to take a vacation. What if I could promise you that this vacation, this 1 week trip to wherever, is going to be something that you'll remember for the rest of your life and remember fondly? This could be the best memory of your entire life. What is it worth to you? What was it worth? The older you get, the more it's worth. So now let's look at comics, okay? Let's say you're Jim Zub and you're writing Conan and you're making, the first 6 issues of Conan. How much is that worth for you as a reader to love that 6 issues of Jim Zub Conan and remember it for the rest of your life? How much is it worth? If you're in your 20s, you may say, a couple $100. I don't know. By the time you get to 50, that's worth several $1,000s. On your deathbed, let's say you live to a grand old age of 80. That's worth $1 million to you. Now, the point I'm making here is that in comics, if you're a comic creator, if you're a comic editor, if you're a comic artist, what a privileged, amazing job you have, because you're making memories for people that will carry them through their deathbed. I guarantee you, as much as I've loved my family and my wife and my kids and everything else, when I am dying, somewhere in the back of my head, I'm going to be thinking about goddamn Chris Claremont, John Byrne doing X-Men. It's going to be there. I've been, as many of you listen to on this channel, because I'm overly transparent with this shit, I have been horribly sick. I've been in the hospital, getting blood transfusions and other things, and I have remembered the comic books that made a mark in my memory. So what's that worth? Well, the reality is, it's worth a hell of a lot. It's amazing, these memories. So if you're in Marvel or DC or a comic editor, and every now and then, if you're Heather Antos or Teenie Howard, and you've written a mail or a message to Perch, and you said, "Why are you such an asshole?" Which these individuals have done. It's because of this. The work you're doing is worth millions of dollars, because I'm just one person. And if you sell a comic to, let's say, 100,000 people, it's 100,000 people that have $1 million memories. And that's why comics are so fucking important. And that's why I do get irritated with the YouTube shenanigans and other bullshit. It's why when people ask me, "What do you think about this Comicsgate versus Eric July feud?" And I'm like, who the fuck cares? I understand it may be important, but those are dumbass memories. How's Eric July going to defend himself against 3D art? I don't know, and I don't care. The people who like his comics are having a good time, and that's what matters. And so I get that, we can do a live stream, we could do a video, and we can get some advertising revenue, we can get some, some super chat revenue. And I've met plenty of people like, I made $600 in super chat revenue. And I get that that's good money, no doubt about it. But we're living in an industry that creates $1 million memories for thousands of people. That's worth more. So the next time you're sitting in front of your board or your computer or everything else, you're Chris Conroy and you're sitting on, you're like, do I go to Twitter and talk about how much I hate answering email, or do I actually answer some of this fucking email? Hey, answer the goddamn email, because you're working in an industry that's worth millions and millions of dollars. What's wrong with you? Do that. Steer into that. To me, that's what comics is. It's an incredibly rich industry that has the potential to create $1 million memories. Or, alternatively, you can be a miserable bitch on Twitter and talk about how, the alt-right is pestering you at a con, which has never fucking ever happened in anyone's life. Go for the memories. Go for that. Thanks for listening.